Welcome, dear friend, to the transformative journey of mastering your emotions. Let me ask you a question that has puzzled philosophers, scientists, and seekers for millennia. Have you ever wondered why you feel the way you do? Why a single moment can send your heart racing, your mind racing, or your spirit soaring? Today, we unlock the door to understanding emotions, the primal forces that shape our lives, our choices, and our potential. Let's begin by peering into the magnificent machine that is your brain. Picture this. Deep within its folds lies the amygdala, a tiny almond-shaped structure that acts as your body's ancient alarm system. Long before humans built cities, wrote poetry, or fell in love, the amygdala ensured our survival. When our ancestors spotted a lion on the savannah, this part of the brain triggered a flood of adrenaline, sending their hearts pounding, their muscles tensed, and their senses sharpened. That primal response, it's still with us. Your emotions, friend, are survival tools. They are not your enemy. They are your ally, designed to protect, guide, and inspire you. But emotions are not random chaos. Science has given us a roadmap. Let's explore the Big Six, the universal emotions that pulse through every human heart: joy, sadness, fear, anger, surprise, and disgust. These are not just labels. They are messages. Joy signals connection. Sadness warns of loss. Fear shouts, danger ahead. Anger says, boundaries have been crossed. Surprise interrupts your mind to pay attention. Disgust protects you from harm. Each emotion has a purpose, a role to play. Yet here's the truth. Modern life has made us afraid of our emotions. We suppress fear, deny anger, or numb sadness. But what if I told you that emotional mastery begins with radical acceptance, with understanding that these feelings are not your foe, but your language? Let's take a step deeper. Emotions are biochemical symphonies conducted by your brain. Neurotransmitters like dopamine, serotonin, and oxytocin are the notes. Dopamine surges when you experience pleasure or motivation. Imagine the rush of starting a new project, of chasing a dream. Serotonin stabilizes your mood, the quiet force behind contentment. Oxytocin? That's the love hormone, released in moments of connection. A hug from a loved one, a tear during a heartfelt moment. And then there's cortisol, the stress hormone. It's not inherently bad, friend. Cortisol is the fuel that helped you meet a deadline, pass an exam, or rise to a challenge. But when it's unmanaged, it becomes a storm. Let me share a story that changed my perspective forever. Picture a hiker standing at the edge of a cliff, captivated by the sunrise. Suddenly, a shadow moves, something large, something dangerous. In an instant, her body is flooded with adrenaline. Her breath quickens, her mind races. She runs, heart pounding, until she finds safety. Only later does she realize the something was just a deer. But in that moment, her emotions saved her. Friend, this is the power of your emotional system. It is faster than thought, deeper than logic. It is your body's way of saying, pay attention. But here's the challenge we face today. We live in a world that mistakes emotional discomfort for weakness. We are taught to hide fear, to suppress anger, to ignore sadness. Yet what happens when we silence these signals? They don't vanish. They fester. They manifest as anxiety, burnout, or disconnection. Emotional mastery begins with listening to your body, to your mind, to the whispers and shouts of your heart. So let's take a pause. Take a breath. Close your eyes for a moment. Feel the rhythm of your own heartbeat. Now ask yourself, what am I feeling right now? Is it the subtle hum of curiosity? The quiet thrill of anticipation? The warmth of hope? That's emotional awareness. And it is the first step toward freedom. You see, friend, emotions are not accidents. They are messages. They are the language of your soul. When you feel a surge of anger, ask, what boundary needs defending? When sadness washes over you, ask, what is being lost here? When fear stirs, ask, what am I protecting? And when joy bursts into your life, grab it. Ride that wave. Because joy is the proof that you are alive, and it is one of the most powerful tools in your arsenal. In this chapter, you've laid the foundation. You understand that emotions are ancient, biological, and universal. You've glimpsed the science behind the storm. But here's the beautiful truth. Once you understand your emotions, you can begin to master them. You can learn to ride the waves instead of being drowned by them. So as we close this chapter, I want you to celebrate how far you've come. You've taken the first step, understanding. Next, we'll uncover the hidden triggers that set these emotions in motion. But for now, hold this truth close. Your emotions are not your enemy. They are your compass. They are your power. And with this knowledge, you are already one step closer to living a life of clarity, courage, and emotional freedom. Keep going, friend. The journey is just beginning. Have you ever woken up after a night of frustration, trying desperately to remember what caused you to feel that way? Or perhaps you've suddenly exploded at a loved one in the heat of the moment, only to wonder later, why did I react like that? You're not alone. These moments are clues, invitations to understand yourself more deeply. What we're doing now, identifying emotional triggers, is the crucial first step in taking control of your emotional world. Let's explore how to unlock the secrets hidden in your mind. Think of your emotions as a vast network of rivers and streams. Some run calmly for years, while others surge into chaos when the right or wrong switch is flipped. These switches are your emotional triggers. They are the silent architects of your thoughts, and your thoughts are the engineers of your emotions. Let me give you an example. Imagine you arrive at a meeting late, only to find your colleagues discussing something important you missed. Suddenly, you feel a pang of insecurity and anger. What's the first thought that pops into your head? They're ignoring me, or I'm not valued here. These thoughts, not the situation itself, are the true spark. The meeting wasn't the problem. That's just the event. The real culprit was the interpretation you gave it. Let me ask you this. Are you ready to shift from being a passenger in your emotional life to becoming its captain? That's what we're building here. To do this, we must learn to separate thoughts, feelings, and actions, a masterstroke in emotional awareness. Here's how it works. A thought is the story you tell yourself in your mind. It's usually automatic. A feeling is the physical or emotional reaction that arises in your body as a result of that thought. An action is what you then do, how you respond to the feeling. Let's break it down. Suppose your partner forgets a birthday. Thought, they don't care about me. Feeling, you feel a wave of sadness, then anger. Action, you storm out of the room or lash out. Now ask yourself this. Did the birthday matter? Or did the interpretation of it matter? The answer lies in your power to choose. Your thoughts are not facts. They are narratives. And when you realize that, you begin to reclaim control. So how do you uncover these triggers? Let's build a tool together. Imagine your brain as a map of highways and side streets. Your goal is to find the intersections where your emotions tend to crash. To do this, we need self-observation, a practice as simple as it is profound. This means pausing during the day and asking yourself, what just happened? What did I feel? Why? Take out a journal, not your phone, not your social media feed, your journal. Yes, the kind that smells faintly of paper pulp. Write down one situation that stirred you emotionally, no matter how small. Ask yourself these questions. 1. Situation, what happened? 2. Thought, what did I tell myself about it? 3. Feeling, what physical or emotional sensation did I experience? 4. Action, how did I respond? 5. Result, what happened after that? Let's say you just had a conversation with a coworker that left you defensive. Situation, coworker interrupted your presentation. Thought, they think I'm not competent. Feelings of humiliation. Action, you snapped at them. Result, they became defensive, and now you feel regret. Here's the magic. By writing this down, you begin to see patterns. Maybe every time a boss gives feedback, you feel attacked. Or every time a friend cancels plans, you spiral into self-doubt. These are not just random reactions. They're stories, habits, and often, they're rooted in the past. You see, triggers often originate from old wounds, childhood insecurities, past betrayals, or limiting beliefs. But here's the empowering truth. You are not your triggers. They are just echoes of a time when you learned to interpret the world in a certain way. Now it's time for a rewrite. And this is where pattern recognition comes in. Keep that journal close. Every day, write at least one entry. Over time, you'll begin to notice clusters. Maybe it's the way you react to criticism, or the way you feel abandoned when someone cancels a plan. These are not failures. They're data. And data is freedom. Let me share a story that changed my perspective. A few years ago, I was coaching a client named Alex. Alex struggled with road rage. Every time traffic slowed down, he'd honk furiously, his face turning red. At first, we assumed it was impatience, but when we dug deeper, he realized his trigger was an unconscious memory of his father, a domineering figure who often punished him for being late or messy. The traffic jam wasn't about the cars. It was about reclaiming control he had lost as a child. When we uncovered this, the transformation was immediate. He began to notice the thought, "I'm in control of this situation," and the feeling shifted from frustration to calm. His actions? He took a deep breath, let the music in the car be his escape, and drove home in peace. That's the power of self-observation. Not to fix, but to understand. And once you understand, you can design new responses. So here's your challenge. For 1 week, be the detective of your own mind. Write in that journal. Ask yourself the 5 questions. Look for patterns. When you feel a rush of emotion, pause and ask, what am I believing about this situation? And remember, this is a journey, not a sprint. There will be days when you miss a trigger or mislabel a thought. That's not failure, that's learning. Every time you catch a trigger, you're building a new neural pathway in your brain. You're replacing old habits with new power. You are on a path of emotional mastery, friends. Not because life will stop being messy, but because you will learn to navigate it without losing control. So write, observe, reflect, and keep going. In the next chapter, we'll dive deeper into the emotional response cycle, how the brain processes triggers, and how you can interrupt that cycle to choose peace over panic. But for now, take a proud breath. You've just taken your first step toward freedom, and I couldn't be prouder of you. Let's go. The journey is just beginning. Welcome to Chapter 3 of How to Master Your Emotions, the Emotional Response Cycle. By now, we've laid the foundation of understanding what emotions are and how they shape our lives. Today, we dive into the mechanics of how emotions unfold in real time. This is your blueprint, not to control emotions, but to master them, to create space where there was once no space at all. Let's begin with the 3-stage model of emotional response: stimulus, reaction, adaptation. This cycle is universal, yet it plays out in 1,000 different ways in each of us. Think of it as the heartbeat of your emotional life. 1 beat is the trigger, 1 is the response, and the 3rd is how you adjust. Your mastery lies in what happens between those beats, especially the first one. Picture this: a colleague interrupts you during a presentation. You're mid-sentence, your flow is broken, and suddenly you feel your face heating up. That's the stimulus, the trigger point. What happens next? Your mind starts to react. You might think, who does this person think they are? Or, I'm being disrespected. This is your reaction, often automatic, visceral, and rooted in stories you've told yourself over a lifetime. Finally comes adaptation. Do you storm out? Do you laugh it off? Do you adjust your approach mid-conversation? This is where power is born. This is where you begin to rewrite your emotional destiny. Here's the truth we must confront. Most of us react before we can think. Our brains are wired for survival, not for nuance. When a stimulus hits, say, a harsh word, a red traffic light, or a financial loss, our amygdala kicks into high gear. It's not thinking, what's the best way to respond? It's screaming, threat detected! For centuries, this reaction saved us from predators. Today, it just makes us miserable. But there is a choice. One of my most transformative sessions with a client centered around this very idea. Let me share this without names, for your sake. Imagine someone who had been overwhelmed by a crisis at work. A project collapsed, deadlines loomed, and the weight of team expectations pressed down like a ton of bricks. In that moment, the stimulus was clear. The failure. Their reaction? Panic. Breath quickened. thoughts spiraled into, what if we fail? But here's where the magic began. This individual paused, not for seconds, but for a full minute. A conscious pause. They closed their eyes, took 3 deep breaths, and asked, what is the next action I can take that serves my purpose? That pause, the space between stimulus and reaction, became their adaptation. That one moment transformed disaster into a rallying cry. The project was salvaged. Trust was deepened. Growth accelerated. This is not a fluke. This is the art of emotional mastery. And it begins with understanding this cycle. Let's dissect it, piece by piece. Stage 1, the stimulus. It could be a word, a situation, or an event. It's neutral until we assign meaning. A raised voice isn't a threat until your mind interprets it as one. A financial loss isn't inherently devastating until you believe it's a personal failure. Your power lies in not letting the stimulus define your reality. Stage 2, the reaction. This is where most people trip. They react through anger, fear, guilt, or apathy, and then compound the problem. But reaction is not the end of the story. It's simply energy. Untamed and unchosen energy. I want you to pause right now. Think of a recent moment where you reacted without space. What was the stimulus? What did your body feel in that reaction? And what did you lose by not creating adaptation? Stage 3, adaptation. This is where growth lives. It's not about suppressing emotions, but choosing how you shape the aftermath. A friend of mine, a single parent, faced a tantrum from her toddler in a grocery store. The stimulus? A child thrown to the floor. The reaction? A parent overwhelmed, tempted to shout, punish, or retreat in anger. But she adapted. She knelt, looked her child in the eye, and said, I see your frustration. Let's talk about it when we get home. Later, they had a conversation about boundaries and feelings. That adaptation, calm, deliberate, and grounded, created a deeper connection. She didn't eliminate emotion. She elevated it. Now here's the challenge. We are addicted to automatic reactions. Your brain loves efficiency, so it builds neural pathways to bypass the thinking part of your brain. The prefrontal cortex, the seat of rational thought, is too slow for the amygdala's urgency. That's why you say hurtful things, make rushed decisions, or act out in moments of stress. But this cycle can be rewired, and the key lies in inserting space between stimulus and reaction. Let's explore a practical strategy, the pause, reflect, respond method. Next time a stimulus hits, do this. 1. Pause. Physically stop movement. Inhale for 4 beats, exhale for 6. 2 rounds. This slows cortisol in your blood and resets your nervous system. 2. Reflect. Ask, what am I feeling in my body right now? Then, what need am I trying to meet? Often, frustration masks a need for control. Shame often hides a need for validation. 3. Respond. Choose your action from clarity, not chaos. Will this response honor my values? Will it serve my long-term goals? I'll share a story to illustrate. A man I trained used to lose patience in traffic, a predictable stimulus. He'd rage at drivers, honk, and let his blood pressure rise. One day he paused. He noticed the tightness in his chest, the heat in his face, and the story, "This driver is an idiot." He reflected, "What need am I missing?" "My peace." Then he responded by playing his favorite music, laughing, and letting the driver move ahead. The traffic didn't change, but his experience of it did. This is the power of adaptation. The more you practice this cycle, the more you recondition your brain. Neuroplasticity isn't a myth. Every time you insert space, you're building a new mental muscle. This isn't about being perfect. It's about progress. Your assignment this week is simple. Observe 3 emotional triggers in your life. Write them down. For each, practice the pause, reflect, respond sequence. Notice how even a single breath creates freedom. Remember, my friend, emotional mastery isn't about becoming a robot. It's about becoming the author of your life story. When you understand the cycle, you stop being a prisoner to your emotions. You become their guide. You adapt, you thrive, you rise. The next time your world shakes, ask yourself, will I repeat yesterday's script of fear and reactivity? Or will I write a new ending, one that aligns with the person I choose to become? The space between stimulus and response is the gift we call freedom. Step into it. You see, emotional awareness isn't just a skill, it's a superpower. It's the ability to look within, to feel without being overwhelmed, and to recognize that every emotion you experience is a message, not a mistake. Right now, as you listen to these words, I want you to imagine a moment when your emotions took control. Maybe it was a surge of frustration during a meeting, a pang of jealousy when a friend succeeded, or the hollow ache of loneliness. These moments are universal, but here's the truth. Awareness is the bridge between being controlled by your emotions and being the master of them. Let's begin with mindfulness. This isn't about sitting cross-legged in silence. It's about anchoring yourself in the now. Try this. The next time you feel a wave of emotion rise, pause. Feel the air entering your nostrils, the rise and fall of your chest. Ask yourself, what am I feeling right now? Say it aloud. This simple act, naming an emotion, creates space between the feeling and your reaction. Think of it as hitting the pause button on a movie you're watching. For the first time, you're not just the character in the story, you're the director. Consider this. A woman once told me she dreaded Mondays because her boss's morning meetings left her drained. Instead of brushing it off, she started pausing at her desk when the meetings ended. She'd close her eyes and scan her body. "My shoulders feel like bricks," she wrote in her journal. "My jaw is clenched tight." Over time, she realized the heaviness wasn't from the meeting itself. It was from years of unspoken frustration about her lack of autonomy. By tuning into her body, she discovered the root of her discomfort. She didn't just manage her emotions, she transformed her career. This leads us to body scan techniques. Close your eyes for a moment and take a deep breath. Now slowly move your attention from your toes to your scalp. Are there any areas of tension? A knot in your stomach? A flutter in your chest? Your body is a map of your emotional landscape. Pain isn't always physical. It's often emotional armor. When we learn to read these signals, we stop treating symptoms and start treating causes. Let me share a story. A client of mine who ran a high-stakes tech company would often wake up in the middle of the night with a racing heart. He assumed it was stress, but during a session, we did a body scan. He realized the tightness wasn't in his chest. It was in his throat. This led to a breakthrough. He'd been swallowing his anger for years, suppressing feedback he wanted to give to his investors. Once he acknowledged the emotion, he could address it. He scheduled a meeting, spoke from a place of clarity, and rebuilt trust. His sleep improved. His stress? Gone. His awareness? Powerfully alive. Now let's talk about thought chaining. Your thoughts are the architects of your emotions. If you're spiraling into anxiety, track the chain of thoughts leading you there. I didn't get that promotion. Fact. This means I'm not good enough. Belief. I'll never be successful. Projection. See how this builds into a storm? The goal isn't to eliminate anxious thoughts. It's to notice how they chain together so you can insert a new link. Replace "I'm not good enough" with "I'm learning and growing." Replace "I'll never succeed" with "every challenge is a step forward." This isn't positive thinking. It's emotional reprogramming. Think of it like a river. Normally, thoughts carry you downstream into old patterns. But with awareness, you can throw a stone into the water and change the current. The next time you feel overwhelmed, ask yourself, what am I telling myself right now? Then rewrite the script. Here's where naming emotions becomes your greatest tool. Many of us grow up with a limited emotional vocabulary. We say, "I'm frustrated," when we're actually hurt. We call it stress when we're really afraid. Precision unlocks understanding. Try this exercise. The next time you feel uneasy, ask, "What am I feeling? Let me narrow it down." Is it resentment? Longing? Insecurity? The more specific you are, the more power you wield over that emotion. A few years ago, a man in his 50s came to me feeling stuck in a cycle of depression. He'd always labeled his discomfort as sadness, but through our work, he discovered it was grief. Grief for the dream he gave up to support his family. Giving it a name changed everything. He didn't just want to feel better, he wanted to honor the loss. Awareness didn't cure his pain overnight, but it gave him clarity and the courage to rebuild. Now, let's distinguish between healthy and unhealthy emotional patterns. Healthy patterns are flexible. They allow you to feel deeply, reflect, and adapt. Unhealthy patterns are rigid loops. They make you repeat the same reactions until they become second nature. Do you know people who blow up every time something shifts, or shut down during conflict? That's rigidity. Your goal isn't to feel good all the time. It's to feel freely, without being trapped by old habits. Here's a test. When you feel an emotion, do you rush to suppress it, project it onto others, or drown it in distractions? If so, you're in a reactive state. If you pause, name the emotion, and choose your response, you're mastering it. The difference is awareness. You see, building emotional awareness is not a destination. It's a daily practice. When you meditate on your breath, you're not escaping life. You're preparing for it. When you scan your body for tension, you're not avoiding stress. You're decoding it. And when you reframe your thoughts, you're not pretending to be happy. You're creating a new reality. So I challenge you, start small. This week, choose one moment to stop and ask, what am I truly feeling right now? Name it. Let the word hang in your mind. Breathe into it. Then decide if you want to act or simply be. Over time, this discipline will rewrite your story. You won't just react to life anymore. You'll design it. Remember, awareness is the first fire in a long-burning flame. Every breath is a chance to ignite it. Every moment is a chance to glow brighter. And you, my friend, are capable of becoming the calm at your own storm. So take a deep breath. Feel your body. Listen to your thoughts. The power to master your emotions begins the instant you decide to awaken them. Welcome to Chapter 5, Managing Negative Emotions. Let's confront the truths we've all faced. Life is not always a gentle breeze. Sometimes it's a storm. And in those moments, fear, anger, and anxiety can feel like they're driving the bus, leaving us gasping for control. But here's the empowering news. You are the driver. Let's learn how to steer. Imagine this. You're seconds away from a major presentation. Your heart races, your palms sweat, and your mind screams, you'll fail. That's fear, wild and uninvited. But what if I told you that fear is not the enemy? It's a signal, a GPS alerting you to something that matters to you deeply. The problem isn't the emotion itself. It's the story we tell ourselves about the emotion. Cognitive restructuring, the art of rewriting that story, is where true power begins. Let me share a story. Meet a man named Alex. For years, Alex avoided leadership roles because anxiety told him, you're not good enough. His fear wasn't about the job. It was about the potential of being seen as a failure. One day, he paused and asked himself, is this thought true? Is it helpful? What's another way to look at this? Over time, he replaced, I'm going to fail, with, I'm stepping into growth. His fear didn't vanish. It became fuel. When anger erupts, it's like a volcano inside us, right? But where does it come from? Often, it's a shield for deeper wounds, disrespect, injustice, or unmet needs. Here's a technique. The next time you're seething, ask yourself, what is this anger protecting me from? Suppose you're furious at a colleague for missing a deadline. Beneath the rage might be fear of your own project collapsing. Instead of lashing out, reframe it. This anger shows me how much I care about teamwork and results. Now, how do I address this constructively? Consider this strategy. Pause for 30 seconds the next time you're angry. Breathe. Then ask, would I speak to a loved one the way I'm ready to speak to this person? If not, redirect. Replace blame with curiosity. Instead of, you're so inconsiderate, try, I feel frustrated because. A phrase that shifts conflict into connection. Now let's talk about anxiety, the relentless inner critic that whispers, something's going to go wrong. Grounding methods are your anchor. Try the 5-4-3-2-1 technique when the world feels foggy. 5 things you see: the clock, your shoes, light through a window. 4 things you feel: the chair beneath you, air on your skin. 3 things you hear: a car passing, your breath. 2 things you smell: your coffee, cleaning spray. 1 thing you taste: your lips, maybe the hint of mint. This isn't about fixing anxiety. It's about reminding your brain, you are safe here. I once coached a client who froze during panic attacks. One day, mid-attack, she muttered, "Where's the 654?" She later laughed, explaining how grounding gave her a lifeline, not to avoid pain, but to survive it. But what about when a storm of emotion says you can't carry this alone? That's where acceptance comes in. Acceptance doesn't mean resignation. It's refusing to wage war against a reality you can't control. When pain arrives, don't shout, "Go away!" Instead, say, "Thank you for being honest. I'm here to understand you." Imagine a parent cradling a crying child, not solving the pain immediately, but offering presence. That's acceptance. A powerful exercise. Write down your most painful emotion as if it's a letter. Describe its texture, color, and sound. Then add one line. "I'm not defined by this moment. You are the sky, not the passing cloud." Now listen closely. There's a time to embrace these tools and a time to raise the flag for professional help. If negative emotions are a heavy fog lasting weeks, if you feel trapped in a loop of despair, or if self-harm crosses your mind, please reach out. Seeking help isn't weakness. It's a revolutionary act of self-love. A therapist isn't a fixer. They're a guide who helps you find your own compass. Here's your challenge. For 1 week, be a detective of your emotions. When fear, anger, or anxiety knock, greet them. Ask, what truth are you trying to share? Journal your answers. You might discover that fear is actually excitement in disguise. That anger is a call for respect. That anxiety isn't a prediction. It's a plea for preparation. Remember, managing negative emotions isn't about becoming a robot who feels nothing. It's about mastering the dance between your heart and your mind. Each breath is a chance to choose. What story will you create today? Will you be a prisoner of your emotions or a captain steering toward peace? You are not your emotions. You are the presence behind them. Let's close with this thought. Every time you've risen from emotional turbulence, you've proven your strength. Trust that again. The next time life's storm hits, stand tall. And remember, clouds can't hurt you. They pass. You remain. Keep going. Your journey toward emotional mastery is not a race. It's a lifelong revolution. And I am cheering you on. Chapter 6. Expressing Emotions Effectively. Imagine this. You're standing at the edge of a river, holding a heavy stone in your hands. That stone is your unexpressed emotion. You can either drop it into the water and let it sink, or you can release it gently, allowing it to find its place on the shore. The key is in how you choose to express it. Emotions are not to be feared, avoided, or crushed. They are the heartbeat of your humanity, but when expressed with awareness, they become bridges, not barriers, between you and others. Today, we unlock the art of expressing emotions with clarity, courage, and compassion. Let's begin with the most revolutionary tool in nonviolent communication, the I statement. You've likely heard of it, but rarely do we stop to realize its power. Consider this. When you say, "You never listen to me," it's a grenade in a negotiation. It places blame, provokes defensiveness, and shuts down dialogue. But here's the alchemy. Shift that sentence into an I statement. "I feel unheard when I'm interrupted. I'd love to share my side without interruptions." Notice the transformation. It's not about absolving others or letting them off the hook. It's about taking ownership of your experience while inviting collaboration. Let me share a story. A manager once approached me, frustrated by a team member's attitude. He admitted, "I was constantly saying, 'You're lazy and disrespectful. Fix it or leave.'" His team's morale crumbled, resentment grew, and eventually, the team member quit. But something shifted when he tried a new approach. During a one-on-one meeting, he said, "I care deeply about this team's success. When deadlines are missed without communication, I feel anxious about our project. Can we talk about what's challenging for you?" The response? Tears. The employee shared struggles with a chronic illness they'd been hiding. Collaboration flourished. That manager didn't just resolve a conflict. He revealed empathy's power when paired with intentional language. This is the essence of expressing emotions effectively. Clarity without cruelty, honesty without accusation. But the next question is equally vital. How do you match the intensity of your emotions to the situation? A roaring fire can cook your meal, but it can also destroy your home. Emotional intensity requires calibration. Suppose you're feeling overlooked at work. It's natural to feel frustrated, even angry. But if you storm into your boss's office, red-faced and shouting, "You're completely ignoring my contributions," chaos follows. Instead, consider scaling your response. Begin with a calm tone. "I'd like to share how my recent project impacted the team's goals." Then pause. Let them respond. If they interrupt, gently guide back with, "I'd appreciate the chance to finish." If their response remains dismissive, you might say, "I feel deeply committed to this project. I'd like to understand your perspective better." You're honoring your emotion without weaponizing it. Here's a truth. Mastering emotional expression isn't about suppressing your feelings. It's about orchestrating how they leave your body. Think of it as a musician tuning an instrument. The emotion is the note. Your voice, your posture, your breath are the tools to bring it alive with harmony. Now let's turn to the final cornerstone, active listening. You cannot express emotions effectively if you're only focused on your own. Every conversation is a dance. You must lead and follow depending on the rhythm. Active listening is your invitation to say, "I see you, I hear you. I respect your story as much as mine." How do you practice it? Begin by suspending judgment. When someone speaks, resist the urge to form your rebuttal in your mind. Instead, reflect back what they've shared. "What I'm hearing is that this situation made you feel unappreciated. Is that right?" Use nodding, eye contact, and soft sounds of affirmation. If they're emotional, offer space. "This matters a lot to you. Would you like to take a moment?" I once mediated a conflict between two siblings in a family business. For years, they'd argued over leadership roles, their conversations devolving into accusations. When asked to mediate, they agreed to a simple rule. One person would speak for 3 minutes without interruption. The other would listen, then summarize what they'd heard. At first, it felt awkward. Then something remarkable happened. The sister who spoke about her fear of failure wasn't met with defensiveness, but with genuine curiosity. Her brother said, "It sounds like you're not just fighting about roles, you're scared of letting me down." She wept. And in that space, a space carved by listening, their bond was renewed. So let me challenge you. For the next 7 days, choose one situation where you feel tension. Practice an I statement. Gauge your emotional intensity like a thermostat. Then sit back and listen, not to reply, but to receive. Notice what shifts. Your emotions are not obstacles. They are signals. They whisper, "I have a need. I care deeply. I want to be heard." But when expressed with skill, they become the fuel for deeper connections, stronger relationships, and a world where everyone feels seen. Expressing emotions effectively isn't about being perfect. It's about being present. It's about saying, "Here is my heart. I offer it with courage, and I welcome yours in return." So take a deep breath, step into the river, and let your emotions find their place on the shore. The world is waiting for your voice. Chapter 7, Emotional Resilience Training. You've heard the phrase, "What doesn't kill you makes you stronger." But what if I told you that resilience isn't just a line on a motivational poster? It's a skill you can build, a muscle you can strengthen. The human brain, with its incredible capacity for change, what scientists call neuroplasticity, is your ultimate ally in mastering emotional resilience. Today, I'll show you how to harness that power. Let's start with a simple truth. Life is unpredictable. Some days, the sun shines. Other days, it throws thunderstorms at you. Resilience isn't about avoiding the storms. It's about learning to dance in the rain. Neuroplasticity research reveals that every time you face a challenge and recover, your brain rewires itself to handle future stress better. Imagine your brain as a tree. When a tree is exposed to gentle winds, it leans and sways, but its roots dig deeper. Over time, it grows sturdier. Similarly, each setback you navigate with emotional awareness carves new neural pathways, making resilience not just possible, but inevitable. Now, here's the secret weapon, mental rehearsal. Studies from the University of Toronto show that visualizing your response to stress doesn't just prepare your mind, it prepares your body. Your nervous system can't tell the difference between vivid imagination and real-life action. This means you can train yourself to stay calm in chaos by simply thinking through difficult scenarios. Let me share a story to illustrate this. A young professional once approached me, overwhelmed by fear of public speaking. Every presentation left her sweating, her voice cracking, her confidence shattered. We designed a practice. Every morning she'd close her eyes and mentally run through a presentation. She imagined the setting, the audience, the questions, even the awkward pauses. She'd picture herself smiling calmly, speaking with authority, and gracefully handling objections. Within weeks, her actual talks transformed. The mental rehearsals rewired her emotional response. Her brain had practiced resilience so thoroughly that her body followed suit. You can do the same. Start today by setting aside 5 minutes before your day begins. Close your eyes and mentally rehearse one challenge you anticipate. Are you nervous about a confrontation? A high-stakes decision? A conversation you've avoided? Walk yourself through how you'd respond with calm, how you'd lean into your values instead of your fears. Over time, mental rehearsal becomes emotional armor. But resilience isn't just about preparation. It's about learning from every setback. This is where post-stress analysis shines. Think of this as your emotional autopsy. When you leave a draining situation, whether it's a conflict, a project failure, or a personal disappointment, pause and ask, what emotions did I feel? What triggered them? What did my body do? What can I take forward next time? Here's how it works. Imagine you've just had a heated argument with a colleague. Instead of ruminating on the hurt or anger, write down the timeline. Note the exact moment your frustration spiked. What physical sensations did you feel? Where in your body? Did your chest tighten? Did your voice rise? Then, ask yourself, what did I learn about my triggers? What could I do differently next time? This process turns a setback into a masterclass in resilience. A few years ago, I met a firefighter who shared how this method saved his career. Early in his job, he'd react to emergencies with panic. After a particularly grueling rescue, he wrote in detail about his experience. Over time, he noticed patterns. When he took 3 deep breaths before entering a burning building, his heart rate stabilized. When he focused on the rhythm of his boots as he sprinted, he found a sense of control. Those post-stress insights, journaling them, naming them, made him unstoppable. You see, emotional resilience isn't a lightning bolt, it's a daily practice. It's the sum of your mental rehearsals and your reflections on the battlefield of life. Neuroplasticity confirms what many sages have said. When you respond to adversity with intention, you grow. But let's be real, this isn't always easy. There are days you'll stumble, moments you'll feel like the storm is stronger than your inner tree. That's when you must remember the most profound truth of all. Resilience isn't about perfection. It's about progress. Let's talk about progress. You are not your past reactions. You are not your old wounds. You are the person who now knows how to rebuild. When you train your brain through mental rehearsal, when you dissect challenges with curiosity instead of shame, you're not just surviving, you're evolving. Here's your challenge. This week, commit to 1 daily mental rehearsal and 1 post-stress analysis. Let your brain reshape itself into the masterpiece of resilience it's capable of becoming. And when the storms come, because they will, you'll look back and see how much stronger you've grown. Remember this, every time you choose to respond instead of react, you're sculpting the person you're becoming. You're not just mastering emotions. You're mastering your entire life. Take that power. Own it. And let the fire that once threatened you become the spark that lights your way forward. Chapter 8. Balancing Emotional States. Let me ask you something. Have you ever felt like your emotions are on a relentless swing, oscillating between euphoria and despair like a pendulum with no center? One moment you're on top of the world, the next you're drowning in frustration. That's the emotional pendulum at work. The truth is, life isn't meant to be a series of extremes. But what if you could regulate that pendulum? What if you could steady your emotional state and live in a place of equilibrium where joy, peace, and resilience are not fleeting moments but your daily reality? This chapter is about creating that balance. Balancing emotional states isn't about suppressing emotions or pretending everything is perfect. It's about learning to respond to life's challenges with grace, while amplifying the positive so it anchors you in moments of doubt. Let's dive into the strategies that will help you master this balance. First, let's talk about the most powerful tool you already have: lifestyle design. Your mood is deeply connected to your physical well-being. Think of your body as a temple. It runs on fuel, rest, and movement. Let me share a story. A few years ago, a young woman named Maria felt trapped in a cycle of anxiety and burnout. Every day was a battle between exhaustion and irritability. Her breakthrough wasn't about fixing her mindset. It started with her morning routine. She replaced her caffeine dependency with a 10-minute gratitude practice and 30 minutes of intentional movement. Over time, she noticed how physical activity didn't eliminate her stress, but gave her something stronger: perspective. Exercise, adequate sleep, and nourishing food create a foundation for emotional stability. When you prioritize these, you're not just getting healthy, you're building a fortress against the storms of life. But let's go deeper. Emotional balance isn't just about what you do, it's about what you allow. We often think of negative emotions as enemies, but they're messengers. Anger, fear, sadness, they're data points. The key is not to push them away, but to process them. Here's a strategy. When you feel a negative emotion arise, pause and ask, what's this feeling trying to teach me? For example, if you're overwhelmed by jealousy in a relationship, it might reveal an unmet need for appreciation. Or if anxiety about work keeps you up at night, it might highlight a boundary you've ignored. Instead of letting these emotions run unchecked, use them as clues to realign your life. Now let's explore amplifying the positive. Positive emotions aren't the absence of negative emotions. They're a choice to cultivate joy, curiosity, and connection. Consider the science of positive resonance, a term used by psychologists to describe the ripple effect of gratitude. Every morning I spend 5 minutes writing down 3 small things I'm thankful for. It could be the smell of coffee, a stranger's kindness, or the sound of rain. Over time, this practice rewired my brain to notice beauty in ordinary moments. Your task? Start today. Write it down. Say it out loud. The goal is to let positivity saturate your awareness so deeply that it becomes your default lens. Still with me? Let me share something personal. A decade ago, I was at rock bottom. I was juggling multiple projects, ignoring my health, and convincing myself that emotional pain was a badge of honor, a sign I was pushing through. One day, I collapsed. Not physically, but emotionally. I realized I'd let the pendulum swing so far into stress and cynicism that I'd forgotten how to feel truly alive. My journey back began with small, deliberate choices. I started cooking meals that nourished my body and soul. I created a joy list of activities that made me feel alive. And I learned to say no to commitments that drained me. It wasn't dramatic, it was radical consistency. Here's where it gets even more powerful. Emotional homeostasis isn't just about your internal world. It's about how you distribute your energy across life domains. Think of your life as interconnected spheres: career, relationships, health, personal growth, leisure. When one is overinflated, another shrinks. This is why we burn out in one area while neglecting another. The solution? Intentional calibration. Set boundaries without guilt. If you're a caregiver by nature, make self-care a non-negotiable. If you're a workaholic, schedule me time and protect it fiercely. The same way you budget money for the future, budget your emotional energy for the life you want to live. You might be wondering, how do I hold this balance when the world keeps throwing chaos at me? The answer lies in micro-adjustments. Imagine you're sailing through a storm. You can't control the wind, but you can adjust the sails. Emotional balance isn't about being perfectly composed. It's about responding to challenges with flexibility. When frustration arises at work, take 3 calming breaths before reacting. When loneliness creeps in, call someone who makes you feel seen. When a setback hits, remind yourself of your past resilience. These tiny choices, repeated daily, create an emotional ecosystem where stability thrives. Let's close with this truth. Emotional balance is not a destination, it's a dynamic process, a dance of giving and receiving, rising and resting. The greatest leaders in history, artists, entrepreneurs, healers, didn't conquer emotions, they mastered them. They knew when to roar and when to retreat. So I ask you, what would it look like to live without extremes? Not a life without struggle, but a life where you're in charge of the soundtrack. You have every tool you need. You've already survived the hard parts. Now it's time to thrive. Take one step today. Revisit your lifestyle. Tune into your emotions. Write a gratitude note. Create space for joy. And remember, you don't need to chase balance, because you are the force that creates it. When you choose peace in the face of chaos, joy in the face of doubt, and love in the face of fear, you aren't just balancing your emotions. You're rewriting what it means to live fully. Chapter 9. Emotional Intelligence in Relationships. Let me ask you something. What is the single strongest thread that weaves human connection into something lasting and meaningful? Is it shared goals? Similar interests? Common values? No. The real glue that binds relationships is emotional intelligence, the ability to see with the heart as clearly as you see with the eyes. You've already mastered understanding your own emotions, identifying triggers, and managing your internal world. Now, let's take that power into the arena where it matters most, relationships. Here's the truth. No relationship is immune to conflict. Whether it's your marriage, a friendship, a team at work, or a family gathering, emotions are the spark that can either ignite connection or explosion. The difference lies in you, in how you choose to respond. Let me share a story with you that will show you this in action. Picture a manager named Alex, leading a team at a high-pressure startup. The team is brilliant individually, but together they're a powder keg. One person dominates meetings, another shuts down, and two others are silently competing for recognition. Productivity plummets, frustrations build, and Alex is caught in the crossfire. One morning, instead of reacting to the storm, Alex stops to observe. Instead of pushing through meetings the same old way, Alex starts with this simple question. What are the unspoken emotions in this room? That shift in perspective changes everything. Alex begins with empathy, the cornerstone of emotional intelligence. Instead of jumping to solutions, they ask someone on the verge of arguing, help me understand. What's the feeling under your frustration? To the person who's quiet, they say, I notice you're not speaking up. What's holding you back? By doing this, Alex transforms a group of individuals into a team. The conflict doesn't disappear. It evolves. Conversations become deeper. Trust builds, and the same brilliant minds start creating together rather than competing. But here's what this teaches you. Emotional intelligence isn't about being nice. It's about being present. Present for yourself and the other person. So how do you take this strategy into your own life? Let's break it down. First, learn to read the emotional landscape in groups. In meetings, friendships, or family dinners, there are always unspoken undercurrents. You might miss them if you're focused on your own script. But when you start listening for tone shifts, a raised voice, averted eyes, a forced laugh, you begin to see the real conversation. Practice this by asking yourself, what's not being said here? Or, how is someone feeling that they're not expressing? Second, master the art of non-defensive communication. Conflict is inevitable, but how you handle it defines your relationships. Let's say a close friend cuts you off mid-conversation. You feel disrespected and want to lash out. Instead of saying, you don't respect my thoughts, try this. I felt unheard when I was interrupted. I want to make sure we can speak to each other with care. You're not pointing fingers, you're naming your experience. And it changes the dynamic entirely. Third, train yourself in empathy as a daily habit. Empathy isn't a feeling, it's a skill. You practice it every time you pause to imagine yourself in another's shoes. When your partner storms out of the room, don't instantly assume they're angry with you. Ask, are they feeling overlooked, overwhelmed, unvalued? That one shift from I'm right to what is their truth is what makes great leaders, partners, and friends. Let me give you one more example. Imagine a woman raising two teenagers, constantly clashing over curfews and life choices. Her frustration grew until she decided to try a new approach. At the dinner table, she shared her own story. I used to argue with my mom, too. Back then, I didn't know she was scared I'd disappear the way her own parent had in her childhood. Understanding that didn't make our fights go away, but it changed everything between us. Her teenagers didn't just hear her, they listened. They opened up about their fears of failure and pressure, and suddenly a battlefield became a bridge. This is the power of emotional intelligence in action. It doesn't mean you'll never fight. It means you'll fight differently. You'll approach conflict not as a duel, but as a dance, each step in rhythm with the other. In professional relationships, the stakes are high. You see this in teams, clients, and mentors. When a colleague criticizes your work harshly, don't let your emotions hijack you. Take a breath and ask, "Help me understand. What are you trying to say?" You might uncover they're under incredible pressure too. When you respond with calm curiosity instead of defensiveness, you create an environment where solutions, not ego, reign. And in the moments when you're unsure what to say, here's a strategy. Say nothing. Sometimes the most powerful act is silence. Give the other person space to breathe, to reflect, to move forward. You'll be amazed how often people soften when they're not met with resistance. We've all known people who seem to effortlessly connect with others. They don't always agree, but they respect, they listen, and they hold space for each other. Those people aren't lucky. They've trained in emotional intelligence, and now you can too. So I want you to take this challenge. For the next week, practice active emotional presence in your relationships. Ask someone, "How are you really doing?" Listen for their answer. In a meeting, say, "I want to make sure we're all on the same page. Can everyone share how they're feeling about this approach?" When conflict comes, pause, breathe, ask, "What's the deeper need here?" Relationships are not about perfection. They're about showing up fully with emotional honesty and courage. Your emotional intelligence is the bridge between loneliness and connection, between confusion and clarity, between conflict and collaboration. The final thing I want you to remember is this. Welcome to the final chapter of How to Master Your Emotions. This is where the rubber meets the road, where the wisdom we've built over these pages transforms into lasting habits. You've already learned how to understand, manage, and express your emotions. Now it's time to cement this mastery into the fabric of your daily life. Let me ask you, what does true emotional freedom look like to you? Maybe it's the ability to stay calm during a crisis, to show up fully for the people you love, or to radiate confidence even when the world feels chaotic. Whatever it is, sustaining emotional mastery requires intention. It's a lifelong practice, not a finish line. Let me share a story that illustrates this. There's a woman in her early 40s who spent years struggling with anxiety. She tried everything: therapy, medication, self-help books. Nothing worked long-term, until she realized the key was not to end her anxiety, but to build a sustainable relationship with it. She began tracking her moods daily, asking herself, "What habits helped me today, and what patterns pulled me down?" She didn't chase perfection. Instead, she designed a system: 20 minutes a morning to journal, a midday check-in to reflect on her emotional state, and weekly recharge rituals like hiking or a creative project. Over months, she noticed how consistency created a safety net. When a panic attack arose, she didn't shame herself. She'd reference her checklist: breathe, move, name the feeling, and slowly regain balance. Today, she runs a workshop for others, teaching them how to build emotional resilience through these same small, repeatable actions. This is the essence of sustaining emotional mastery. It's not about heroic feats, but about stacking small, intentional choices. Let's build your own system together. First, create a personalized roadmap. Sit with a pen and paper. Ask yourself, 1. What are my biggest emotional challenges? E.g., fear of failure, anger triggers, people-pleasing tendencies. 2. What tools already work for me? Maybe affirmations, talking to a friend, or stepping outside. 3. What habits could I integrate to reinforce progress? Daily gratitude journaling, mindful pauses, or weekly reflection circles. Second, develop checklists for self-assessment. Like a gardener who inspects their plants weekly, you'll need to audit your emotional health regularly. At the end of each month, ask, am I honoring my emotional needs? Am I reacting less from old scripts and more from awareness? Do I feel more empowered to choose my responses? This isn't about judgment, just data. If the answer to one question stings, don't panic. That's your compass pointing you toward growth. Third, design action steps for continued growth. Let's say you want to improve emotional resilience. Your action plan might include one new skill per month, e.g., conflict resolution, meditation, or emotional first aid. Weekly meetings with a peer or a coach to stay accountable. Creating a power list of 10 empowering facts about yourself to revisit during storms. Here's the secret. Sustaining emotional mastery means embracing ebb and flow. There will be days when you hit all your goals and days when life derails you. That's normal. My friend, a CEO in her 50s, once told me, "I treat my emotions like muscles. Some days I'm lifting heavy. Others, I just walk the dogs and breathe." The goal isn't to be perfect, it's to be present. She schedules a recovery day every month. No meetings, no emails, just time to reset. It's radical self-care that keeps her grounded. Now let's talk about the final piece, reframing the journey. So many people think, when I achieve X, then I'll be emotionally strong. But true freedom comes when you recognize that emotional mastery is the journey itself. Every setback teaches you about your triggers. Every triumph proves your capacity to grow. Let me leave you with this. 1 year from now, where do you want to see the fruits of this work? Maybe you'll stand tall in a difficult conversation, or hold your loved one close as they cry, or look in the mirror and see a person who wields emotion like a compass, not a chainsaw. Whatever it is, start today. Take one action step, write it down, and remember, you are not just learning these skills for yourself, you're modeling them for others. Your emotional strength ripples outward, creating a safer, more compassionate world. So as we close this chapter in this book, I want you to close your eyes, take a deep breath, feel the power of your own presence. You've already done the hard work of showing up. Now let it compound. One breath, one choice, one day at a time. You are not a work in progress, but a masterpiece in constant motion. Keep going, my friend. The world needs the light you carry.